Hey, good morning. I'm Willie Lawson from 860 WGUL and Blog Talk Radio, and this is the news for June 9th, 2009. All right, let's get started. 10 big banks get the okay to repay the $68 billion in bailout money. In Washington, there's an AP story that says the Treasury Department has approved 10 of the nation's largest banks to repay $68 billion in government bailout money. The department on Tuesday, that's today, said the banks were not named will be allowed to repay the money they received in the $700 billion TARP program. Created by Congress last October, you may remember, at the height of the financial crisis. Among the banks that last month passed the government stress test and confirmed that they received permission to repay the bailout money were J.P. Morgan and Chase, American Express, U.S. Bancorp, Capital One, the Bank of New York Mellon, and BB&T Corporation. Morgan Stanley did not pass the government's test, but on Tuesday said they had raised enough capital quickly and was approved to repay its TARP money. Northern Trust Corporation was not among the 19 banks subjected to the stress test, but the company said it also had received permission to repay bailout funds. Experts say allowing 10 of the banks to return $68 billion in bailout money illustrates some of the stability has returned to the system, and but cautions that the crisis is not over. Some worry that repayments could widen the gap between healthy and weak banks. More than 600 banks nationwide received nearly $200 billion in TARP money, and 22 smaller banks have also repaid it. All right, in that horrible tragedy of the Air France plane that went down a few days ago, Brazil flies the bodies that they received to the mainland. The pitot tubes have been seen. Those were the tubes that were regulated the speed, that showed the speed on the plane that were supposed to be replaced. Well, they found some of those tubes. In another AP story, Brazilian helicopters began ferrying bodies of the Air France crash victim to shore for identification Tuesday. While pilots union and the airline were rapidly replacing speed sensors like those suspected of feeding false information to the doomed jet computers. Soldiers and medical personnel and surgical gowns carried body bags on stretchers off of helicopters that flew to the first of recovered bodies from the ship to the island of Fernando Noronha on Tuesday. Officials said they would be taken by plane to the northeastern coast of Recife, where experts will try to identify them. Brazilian officials said searchers had found 24 bodies by this morning. Peter Getz, a former managing director of the National Transportation Safety Board, said identifying the bodies, knowing where people were sitting and studying the injuries, could give some clues to the cause of the May 31 crash that killed 228 people. Well, Chrysler to sever the dealers, but the sale, the whole deal may be delayed. Chrysler, as you know, is ready to shut down 789 stores or dealerships, but there's a Reuters story that says Chrysler is expected to get approval from the bankruptcy court today to trim its dealer network by a quarter, although opponents want the order delayed until the U.S. Supreme Court rules on the sale of the company. Chrysler asked the judge overseeing its bankruptcy to allow it to reject the dealership's agreements of 789 stores selling Dodge, Jeep, and Chrysler vehicles. The bankrupt automaker has proposed selling most of its operations out of bankruptcy to a group managed by Italian automaker Fiat, leaving unwanted factories in bankruptcy. Arthur Gonzalez, a judge with the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in the southern, I'll find it in a second, in the Southern District of New York in Manhattan, had indicated that he will approve the motion to reject dealers, largely because the dealers were not part of the sale to Fiat. If approved, the motion would reject dealer contracts on today but dealer representatives said a ruling by U.S. Supreme Court on Monday indicated that the bankruptcy court should delay the end of these dealers' agreements until the sale of Chrysler is completed. On Monday, the sale to Fiat was thrown into uncertainty when U.S. Supreme Court delayed the close of the transaction pending further review. So we'll see how that goes. As you know, in Lebanon, there was a vote. They had an election in Lebanon. And this is another Reuters story out of Dubai. Saudi Arabia, which had led Arab attempts to hold back the Iranian influence in the Middle East, has reacted triumphantly to the victory of pro-U.S. allies in Lebanon's elections this week. The surprise win by the incumbent Sunni Muslim-led bloc, backed by Washington and the Saudis, over the Hezbollah-led opposition, which is backed by Iran, was Saudi Arabia's first foreign policy break after a string of setbacks. I see the Saudis found the outcome of the Lebanese elections very satisfying, said a senior Western diplomat. Saudi-controlled Arab media could hardly restrain their glee as the presenters and the correspondents cracked jokes on Dubai-based news channels, and newspapers ran boastful headlines to blow to Hezbollah's leader. So we'll see. There's been a change in leadership, a change in how things are happening in the Middle East. We'll see how that works out. Oh, and our final story today is an interesting story. We know that there will be a new GM chairman, and the new GM chairman is the former chairman, so CEO, of AT&T Incorporated. That person, Edward Whitaker, 67, will replace Kent Kressa. But Kressa will remain GM's interim chairman until the automaker emerges from bankruptcy protection as a new entity, majority owned by the U.S. government. GM, is, of course, is operating Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection as it seeks to reorganize and shed unwanted assets. Oops. So anyway, there you go. It's morning. There's the news. There's the things you need to know. We'll be back later on today with whatever else happens. My name is Willie Lawson. I'm going to be on Blog Talk Radio at noon today at the Willie Lawson Show, so you may want to check me out. I'll be on 860 WGUL here in Tampa and on the internet at www.860WGUL.com. You can check me out there. I hope you like this. I hope this is a feature that you want, because this is just the news. You can comment down in the comment section down there. You can have discussion. We can bring things up that you want to bring up. I'll do the stories. You do the commentary. How about that? I think that's a better arrangement than anyone else has got. Well, until I see you later on today, my name is Willie Lawson, and this is the news. We'll see you then.